Carlos Alcaraz is standing on the verge of immortality, poised to sweep all four major trophies before blowing out 22 candles. That would crown him the youngest Grand Slam sweeper in history, adding fresh fuel to the eternal debate over the greatest of all time. You hear the stats constantly. Federer's 103, Nadal's 92. Djokovic sitting at 99 figures wielded like shields in battle. Yet, there is a critical question getting lost in the noise. Where exactly were these titans standing when they were 22? Place Alcaraz's current resume side by side with the Trinity at that specific milestone, and the contrast is blinding. A specific anomaly screams for attention, one that completely ignores the usual metrics of major wins, world rankings, or bank balances. It is a hidden gem buried in the data, but the moment you spot it, it becomes impossible to ignore. Just days ago in Doha, the Spaniard inked a fresh line in a ledger that is rapidly evolving into the sport's most exotic trophy cabinet. He has kicked off the season with absolute dynamite form. Today, we dissect the anomaly, reveal why the legends fell short, and prove just how frighteningly advanced this young prodigy truly is. First time watching? Smash that subscribe button if you crave this level of forensic sports analysis. Here lies the secret statistic, the figure hiding in plain sight that the pundits are failing to address. This single digit might just be the definitive proof of how radically distinct Alcaraz is from any predecessor in tennis history. Forget the major trophies, ignore the leaderboard positions, and look past the duels. This is a different beast entirely, one that reframes the entire narrative of the Big Three's early years. Before reaching 22, Carlos has hoisted ATP hardware in 14 separate nations. We aren't talking about 14 trophies collected at the usual haunts. That is 14 sovereign states spanning 6 continents, conquering every court surface known to the game. Global dominance this early carries immense gravity. It serves as a litmus test for a competitor's absolute versatility. Claiming victory in 14 lands by 22 is impossible for a one-trick pony. It demands mastery over jet lag, culture shock, and hostile crowds. Achieving this global footprint reveals the limitless height of his trajectory more than any scoreboard ever could. Now, let's rewind the tape and inspect the legends at this precise juncture. Djokovic, arguably the most adaptable athlete ever with 99 career wins, held only 12 trophies total at age 22, and certainly not across 12 different borders. Back in 2003, a 22-year-old Federer was just kissing the grass at Wimbledon for the first time. A legendary breakthrough. Without a doubt, however, his map of conquest was strikingly small, clustered tightly around a few European strongholds. Nadal had already seized Paris 3 times, running by 22 a miracle in itself, yet his mastery on concrete was still in its infancy, and his trophy cabinet betrayed this limit. Geographically constricted, surface-reliant, and locked almost exclusively within Europe and South America. Not a single one of them had planted their flag in 14 nations by that age. The data is crystal clear. It was on American soil that Alcaraz first forced the global sports community to stop and stare. Claiming 6 crowns across 4 states makes the U.S. his most lucrative hunting ground, starting with his Masters breakthrough in Miami, 2022. Later that year, the U.S. Open coronation announced his arrival as a bona fide titan at the tender age of 19. He doubled down on Indian Wells in 2023 and 24, then snatched Cincinnati in 25 before seizing a second U.S. Open barely a moment later. Half a dozen hardcourt victories spanning coast to coast, dominating conditions that usually punish players with his stylistic DNA. He marched in and transformed foreign ground into his personal fortress. Then you look at the British campaign, which is frankly absurd when viewed from a distance. He walked onto the grass at Queen's Club in 2023 as a total rookie to the venue. He lifted the trophy on his first try, then marched straight to Wimbledon to dethrone Djokovic in the finale. A veteran grass specialist would retire happy with that fortnight. For Alcaraz, it was merely the opening act. He retained the Wimbledon crown in 2024, then circled back to conquer Queens again the following year. 4 championships on British lawns before age 23 surfaces that usually take a decade to decipher. His homeland of Spain contributes 4 more trophies to the pile, but the context of each victory is heavy with meaning. While the back-to-back runs in Barcelona were dominant, the magic of Madrid in 2022 stands alone. Imagine a 19-year-old dismantling both Nadal and Djokovic back-to-back, on red clay, in the heart of Spain. That wasn't just a tournament win, it was the official passing of the torch. Returning to Madrid in 2023, he protected his throne with a quiet lethality that screamed louder than any cheering crowd ever could. French soil yielded two major crowns in 2024 and 2025, with the latter final stretching into an agonizing 5 hours and 29 minutes, shattering every clock record in the event's archives, seeing Sinner clutch 3 championship points before Alcaraz clawed his way back from the brink of oblivion. Snatching that victory required more than just a racket and skill. It demanded an unteachable, intangible spirit that simply refuses to die. While the other 10 nations boast a single trophy apiece, a few of those victories deserve a spotlight rather than becoming footnotes in the history books. It all ignited in Croatia back in 2021, where an 18-year-old prodigy captured his maiden ATP crown and set this wildfire in motion. By early 2025, Rotterdam delivered his first indoor hardcourt prize, sealing the final crack in his armor and crowning him the youngest warrior to conquer all 4 modern battlegrounds. The Australian Open in 2026 cemented his legend, making him the youngest man ever to complete the career Grand Slam at just 22 years and 272 days old. Weeks later in Doha, Qatar, he dismantled Fils in a merciless 50-minute sprint, posting a 6-2, 6-1 scoreline, the single quickest match completion of his entire professional life, bringing the ledger to 26 trophies spanning 14 distinct nations, including Brazil, Argentina, China, Italy, Monaco, and Japan. This global tour represents more than just stamps on a passport, as every location brought its own brutal surface, unique atmosphere, and specific tactical nightmares, and he has checked boxes the big 3 left empty at this stage, though skeptics will inevitably raise a valid counterpoint. That legacy is measured by lifetime hoards, and by that metric, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic remain miles in the distance. Absolutely correct, no one in their right mind questions the weight of 103, 92, and 99 titles. Yet, the argument here isn't about the finish line. It is about the head start, specifically what was conquered geographically by the tender age of 22. When you look back, the big 3 simply do not compare, starting with Federer, whose rise was far more of a slow burn. At 22, the Swiss maestro possessed elite technique, but that terrifying all-surface, dominance, and universal consistency across every continent didn't truly solidify until his mid to late 20s. While capturing Wimbledon at 22 was majestic, his global footprint was tiny compared to the empire he would later build, whereas Nadal was the polar opposite. By 22, Rafa was already the most destructive force clay had ever witnessed, hoarding 3 Roland Garros trophies before his peers found their footing, yet the hard-court evolution that would eventually make him a lethal all-round threat was still under construction. His early map revealed a specialist expanding his territory, a king of one domain slowly venturing into others. Djokovic offers the most telling parallel, as his early flight path most closely mirrors the trajectory Alcaraz is currently riding. At 22, Novak displayed sparks of the robotic perfection that would later define him. However, his trophy cabinet held only about 12 cups, and his kingdom was geographically small, with the ultimate version of his game still percolating, 2 or 3 years from reaching a boil. The Titan, who would claim 99 titles and hold all 4 slams at once, was still a prototype being assembled at age 22. The Alcaraz anomaly isn't just his precocity. It is that he burst onto the scene devoid of the weaknesses his ancestors spent years repairing. He arrived fully formed, capable of conquering any terrain, and the history books reflect that terrifying versatility. Now, this is where the narrative tangles. Acknowledging that Alcaraz has outpaced the big 3 at this specific juncture is not a declaration that he has surpassed their legacy. Those are 2 distinct conversations, and confusing them turns legitimate analysis into senseless shouting. That 14-country statistic at 22 proves one thing. Alcaraz entered the arena with a foundation far more complete than the legends before him. Each of the big 3 wielded a singular superpower. At 22, Federer's silky technique, Nadal's barbarism on clay, or Djokovic's iron wall defense, but they all carried armor chinks that required seasons to hammer out. Alcaraz stormed the gates without such vulnerabilities, or at least none obvious enough for opponents to bleed him. Sealing the indoor hardcourt deal in Rotterdam 2025 was the final shard of the mosaic, a puzzle most kids his age are still frantically trying to unbox. The greatest of all time argument is a marathon run over decades, not a sprint finished at 22. Djokovic didn't stack 99 trophies in one brief explosion of glory. Those were harvested over 20 grueling years of summit-level warfare. Federer was still hoisting cups well into his late 30s. Nadal remained a Grand Slam gladiator deep into his mid-30s. Alcaraz stares down a barrel of 15 prime years, assuming his body endures, and his current velocity makes guessing his ceiling virtually impossible. Then looms the shadow of Sinner. As of February 2026, Alcaraz holds the edge in their duel, leading Jannik Sinner 10-6. These two titans have collided in 3 straight major finales, carving up the Grand Slams between them in both 2024 and 2025. We are witnessing the dawn of a feud destined to rule the sport for the next 10 years. Winning across 14 different nations by age 22 sends a terrifying message to Sinner. There is no safe harbor here, no weak court to exploit, and absolutely no limit to how high this kid can fly. We are talking about a completely different beast here. Compared to the puzzles Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic had to solve against one another back in their rookie days. Forget predicting his final destination. We need to respect the mountain he has already climbed. 26 crowns, global dominance across 14 lands, a full Grand Slam set, and victories over the Joker on clay, grass, and hard courts, all achieved before his 23rd birthday. Not even the holy trinity of tennis boasted a resume this lethal at age 22. The receipts are undeniable. Interpret the data however you please. But if this shakes up your GOAT rankings even a little, smash that subscribe button because we are just getting warmed up. I want to hear your voice down below. Do we crown Alcaraz the most perfect 22-year-old weapon in history? Or are we jumping the gun?